Hello students, welcome to my video number 35. Here in this video, we are going to see the end of this lesson, the stolen bacillus. Now let us see what happens next. But before that, let us just have a short recap that the story had taken a new turn. The visitor who had come to the house of this bacteriologist had come with some intention, and after fulfilling his intention, that is, he stole that tube in which the living bacteria were kept by the bacteriologist, and after that he had just hurriedly left the place and went out from there. And after some time, when the bacteriologist realized that the tube was missing from his lab, he just ran after him, started chasing this visitor, the stranger, and the stranger had brought some fake letter of introduction to get inside his lab and grab something like of that sort, because he already had that motive of getting any living bacterium, so with which he can bring about a devastation in the city. And this visitor is actually an anarchist. Anarchist is a person who doesn't believe in the government system, who doesn't trust the government system, and anarchy is such a disorder in a place where there is no government system, no political order. So this man was a follower of anarchy. He wanted to bring about a chaos in the city of London, and that is why he wanted to grab that tube of bacterium with which he could spread the epidemic in the city. So that is what we have already learned. Let us continue now. What happened? He was just running in a cab, and the bacteriologist was on another cab chasing him. And we also know that the wife of the bacteriologist was also there behind him, running with his hat and with his shoes. And all these three cabs were just running after, and ahead of the three cabs we know was the one of this visitors, of this anarchists. So let us continue. What happened after that? The cab swayed, and the anarchist, half standing under the trap, put the hand containing the little glass tube upon the apron to preserve his balance. Since the cab was being driven very fast, so he was finding difficulty to maintain his balance, and this tube of bacteriums, which was very small tube, in order to preserve it, in order to save it from getting broken, he kept it upon the apron, and he felt the brittle thing crack, and that right moment he felt that the brittle means something which can easily be broken, easily breakable thing. So this was a tube was made up of glass, so he heard the thing crack, and the broken half of it rang upon the floor of the cab, and that bacterium, that liquid which was containing the bacterium, spread on the floor. He fell back into the seat with a curse. Now he had done so much to get that tube, such a plan he had made to go to the lab and get that thing somehow, and ultimately he lost the thing when the tube broke. So he was just cursing himself there when he saw that the tube got broken, and stared dismally at the 2 or 3 drops of moisture on the apron. When he saw those drops of moisture on the apron, he felt very much dismal. Dismal means very much sad and very much disheartened. He shuddered. Now the next thought came in his mind. He was very much frightened, fearful, and also horrified at that thought that he lost the things that were contained in the tube, the bacteriums. Well, I suppose I shall be the first. So he then made another plan. What he did, a little drop was still in the broken end of the tube, and he drank that to make sure. It was better to make sure. Now, he was a real anarchist. He was too much into bringing devastation in the city. So ultimately, when he saw that few drops were only left in the tube, so he decided to drink that and get himself infected with the disease. So that is what is actually called human vector. Vector means something the microbes, microorganisms, or the parasites which spread any kind of disease, any kind of epidemic. So he himself drank that drops that were left in the tube to make himself human vector, means so that he could spread the disease in the city. Means, as we know, cholera is a contagious disease. It spreads from one person to another. So he thought that he should be drinking that, getting himself infected with that disease, and he could only with that only he could spread the disease in the city. So look at, he just brought about risk to his own life to bring that devastation in the city. Such a kind of man he is. Then it dawned upon him that there was no further need to escape the bacteriologist. In Wellington Street, he told the cabman to stop and got out. He stood on the pavement with his arms folded upon his breast, awaiting the arrival of the bacteriologist. Now, since he had no fear of this bacteriologist anymore, that he would grab him and he would stop him from spreading that epidemic. So now, because he already drank that the liquid which was contained in the tube, so he had no fear of this bacteriologist. So he stopped his cab and got out of it and stood on the pavement waiting for the bacteriologist. When the bacteriologist arrived, he called out, "Vive anarchy," that is, long live anarchy. Here he is accepting that he is an anarchist. Long live anarchy. You are too late, my friend. I have drunk it. The cholera is broad. Broad means now it is going to spread, and it is inside me, and it is now ready to spread in the city. The bacteriologist from his cab beamed curiously at him through his spectacles. Now, bacteriologist from inside his cab, he looked at this man curiously. He was like a kind of amazed and surprised, looking at him that these sort of people are also there around us. So he was curiously looking at him. You have drunk it? He could not believe it, that he has brought a risk to his own life to bring about this devastation in the city. So it was looking a surprise to him. An anarchist, I see now. Now he understood the whole thing, that this man was an anarchist. He was about to say something more and then checked himself. Means the bacteriologist was going to say something, but he controlled. He didn't say anything. Checked himself means he stopped himself. A smile hung in the corner of his mouth. He opened the apron of his cab as if to descend, at which the anarchist waved him a dramatic farewell and strode off towards Waterloo Bridge, carefully jostling his infected body against as many people as possible. Now this anarchist, was thinking himself to be that he was successful in his aim, in his motive. So he just did not want to talk to bacteriologist anymore. So he just waved him a dramatic farewell, means just waved him in a dramatic way. He might have said something, waved his hand towards him and strode off. That means started walking towards Waterloo Bridge. And when he was walking, he was just carefully jostling his infected body. Jostling means he was just pushing with the people there walking on the bridge. He was just rubbing his body with them when he was crossing. He was because his body is now infected. This is what he was believing. His body was infected, and he could start spreading the disease in that way. The bacteriologist was so preoccupied with the vision of him that he scarcely showed the slightest surprise at the appearance of Minnie upon the pavement with his hat and shoes and overcoat. Now at that moment, the wife, who was also just chasing her husband and wanting to give the shoes and the hat to him, when she arrived there, the bacteriologist didn't show any kind of surprise when he saw his wife, because he was already preoccupied, because he was having a lot of thoughts about this man in his mind. He was busy thinking about him, so he hardly showed any surprise when he saw his wife. And "Very good of you to bring my things," he said, and remained lost in contemplation of the receding figure of the anarchist. Contemplation means that the act of looking at something for long with deep thought. He was just looking at this man and looking at the anarchist, and was thinking all the things that happened in the last few hours with him. So he was thinking and looking at the receding figure, means the anarchist was just going out of sight, getting mixed up in the among the crowd walking on the Waterloo Bridge. So he was just looking at him and was in deep thought. "You had better get in," he said, still staring. "Put on my shoes." "Certainly, dear," said he. So he is looking lost here. He is not able to realize that all this happened with him, that this kind of man came and was having such intentions in his mind. "You see, that man came to my house to see me, and he is an anarchist." Now he's talking to his wife and telling everything about him. "No, don't faint, or I cannot possibly tell you the rest." And I wanted to astonish him, but knowing he was an anarchist, not knowing he was an anarchist and took up a cultivation of that new species of bacterium I was telling you that infest and I think cause the blue patches upon various monkeys. Now what we get to know, that the bacterium, the tube of bacterium that he took and that he drank, was actually not containing the bacteriums of cholera. Instead, they were containing the bacterium of some other strange disease, with which what happened? With which the animals were getting some blue patches. Means he was testing that bacteriums on animals to find out their impact, their effect on the living things, and he found that they were developing some blue patches on all over their skin, the animals. And like a fool, I said it was Asiatic cholera. So he just was researching on this new kind of bacterium which was there in that tube, and he just found out that the impact of these bacterium was just developing blue patches on the animal skin. And he ran away with it to poison the water of London. And he certainly might have made things look blue for this civilized city. Now this thing turned out to be different. It was not actually cholera, but some other thing. And he is here making a mock of it. Mock means making fun of it. That this man running thinking that he was going to poison the water of London, but instead he was going to make everything blue in this civilized city. And now he has swallowed it. Of course, I cannot say what will happen, but it turned that kitten blue, and the 3 puppies in patches, and the sparrow bright blue. So this is what it was. This is what happened when he tried that bacteriums on these animals. kitten and puppies and sparrows. These animals are actually tested for these kind of researches. They are tested if there is anything new researched by the scientist. So it was found that all these animals were developing blue patches. So he was surprised also, and is also like finding it fun that this man who had planned out so many things to bring about devastation in the city actually was going to make himself blue. He would turn blue. But the bother is, I shall have all the trouble and expense of preparing some more. Now he was researching on that new kind of bacterium. So he is now bothered. He is now worried that how he was going to cultivate again those bacteriums in his lab. So what we see, the story ends with a different twist here. The whole time we were also worried that the city will get infected with such a bad disease and it will bring devastation. But ultimately we found that nothing of that kind happened, and whatever the anarchist was planning was going to be a failure. He was not going to be successful in his plan, and ultimately the story ends with a new twist and making it easy for the readers also. So this is an interesting story, and we get to learn a very big lesson here, that if we have good thoughts and good intentions, the God helps us. And if there is any bad and cunning intentions, then ultimately we get into trouble, and the God is there to look after the things, and he takes care of his people. So this is a very good story. The two characters here are completely opposite to each other. The anarchist, who is completely a different kind of man. If we see the two characters, they both are completely different to each other, and so we just end the story here and the discussion here, and we will continue in the next video with question answer discussion. So till then, students and my dear children, take care of yourself, and God bless you all.